Namaste. Welcome to Urban Chatterati. This is Abhinav Prakash. And today I have with me Rashmi Samant, whom you all know from the news these days. She was elected as the first Indian woman president of the Student Union of the Oxford University, but then she had to resign after 1 week because of the bullying, Hinduphobia, and racism thrown at her. So, Rashmi, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you for having me, Abhinavji.
So, Rashmi, could you please tell us something about your educational background from India and then what course you were doing in the Oxford University?
Sure. So I've been in Udupi all my life. I did my schooling here. I went to a local English medium school, like every other middle class Indian. And then I did my pre-university here, so 11th and 12th. And even my engineering here, I've done a BTech in mechanical engineering from Manipal Institute of Technology, which is literally a kilometer away from my house. And I've lived here all my life. And after this, after graduating, I graduated last year in September, and then I started my master's in energy systems at the University of Oxford. So I'm pursuing a master's in energy systems, and it's basically looking at combating climate change by using that's a buzzword these days, and it's all about combating climate change using renewable technology. So it's looking at how we can effectively, with technology and with logic, solve the problems of the world.
Well, that's a wonderful educational career, and you are basically working at the cutting edge of the knowledge production. But we normally don't see people from the science background entering into politics. And what basically persuaded you to enter into politics, the students' politics, that too in a foreign country, and then to contest the election? So, how did it happen? I mean, and what was your electoral plank when you were contesting for the election in the Oxford at the Oxford University?
Well, this is a very interesting question. I was a student leader during my undergraduate days at MIT, Manipal Institute of Technology. We fondly like to call it MIT, but please don't misinterpret for the actual MIT in the United States. So I'm going to say MIT a lot. So I was a leader there, and it was very simple because we are all engineers by the end of the day, and being a student leader there is basically it was my turf, and I really loved it. I loved, advocating for student rights, and it's something I really like pushing for because I really like seeing some real time change along with, my studies and everything. I like to take a lot onto my plate, in terms of extracurriculars and so on and so forth. So I thought that my student experience at Oxford would be more fulfilling if I was a part of the student politics there as well. But it was a misstep of sorts now that I look at it, because unlike Manipal Institute of Technology, the University of Oxford has four different divisions. We are the mathematics, physical sciences, and life sciences division, and then there's the medical sciences division, and then there's the social sciences division, and then the humanities. So the last two are more involved in politics. They're more educated about these things, and I think I'm also the first person from MPLS to even contest and win this election. So there's been no history recent in the recent history. It is rare, but it's something I genuinely enjoy. And I thought, hey, I'm going to make my student experience uh, good, and I'm going to do the same thing here too, and that's why I ran. And my platform, my election manifesto was basically I focused on four objectives. The first one was decolonization of syllabi, because I feel that even at a university like Oxford, the syllabus is more concentrated on white authors or white people and their achievements, and basically there is no mention of the sufferings of the colonial past. For instance, what the Indians went through during the colonial regime, or how this, how there has been the negative side to British imperialism. And this is something which is not discussed there. And if the syllabi changes there, then being the top it's ranked one in the world right now. And if they make that change, then it's going to trickle down to every other university in this world. And that is the kind of society that we need, which acknowledges the complete history in its full entirety, and in its full substance. And that's one thing I wanted. The second thing I ran for is to remove all statues of slave owners and imperialists from on campus. We still have statues of Cecil Rhodes. We still have statues of Christopher Codrington, who was a slave owner, and so on and so forth. So that was another objective I had, because it's very insulting to the international community to have these statues around the corner, of the campus that you live in, that you study in, to have your past disrespected in such a blatant manner. The other issue I focused on was mental health, because I feel that the pandemic has had a severe impact on student mental health, and that we needed more funding to the mental health strategy at the university. And then I spoke about having more COVID related provisions for students, because really we are at the receiving end of some really bad policies from the side of the university in terms of residency requirement and so on and so forth. That was another focus area. Finally, environment, because I'm very passionate about it, and having some technical solutions to solve our problems is the need of the hour, because our planet is literally choking. But we have very little solutions which are actually actionable. And at the university we have billions of pounds of endowment which are invested in fossil fuels, so essentially contributing to this whole saga of choking our earth. And my idea was to push for disinvestment of the university endowment from fossil fuels. So these were like four simple issues, four simple actions that I wanted to do, just to make sure that student life is better. Nothing political, just real issues on campus that needed some real time solution.
And who was their opponent and what was the victory margin, Rashmi?
I had three other opponents, and I won by 53% of the votes. So there were, I think, a
Wow.
total of 3,800 odd votes were cast, and I got 1,900 of the votes. And yeah, it was historic. It was the election with the highest number of votes ever cast. It was
Mhm.
it was the election where the highest number of voters turned up, and it was the election where the president got the highest margin, so won by the highest margin ever. So this was one of those historic elections.
Well, that's a great victory margin. But then what happened, Rashmi? So these people who voted for you, they must be knowing your background, where you are coming from, and they must be during election time. Everyone tries to do a research, background research about the candidates. So they must have gone through your social media profile and everything. But why all of a sudden there was this attack on you, labeling you as a racist, as a bigot, if I'm not wrong, and saying that you are an insensitive person, and that you are not fit to be the president, and there were calls for your resignation. So what happened? Could you please tell the audience exactly what is the chronology of the event?
So I think my supporters are a niche category, not essentially a very united front. The people who take to the streets every other day to fight for some right or the other. They are genuine normal students who want some real change, and they are the ones who voted for me. And then there are people who abstain from voting, and then there are people who voted for other candidates and wanted other things. And I feel like the issues which were being raised, or which was, it could be that they were a little vocal. They are the kind of people who take to the streets to protest every other thing. And basically uh, they started digging up my social media accounts, basically people who didn't do it earlier before voting for me. And they found posts, but it was nothing incriminating. Even today, it's out there. I've put it out there, and I have removed it from my personal social media, because I don't want people to think I still endorse those statements, because even if they were written and they did not mean any malice, I still do not want to leave any room for misinterpretation. And I have released the exact contents of those posts to the media, so that they can be the judge of it. It was literally very naive statements. And it was, I think the one that branded me anti Semitic was basically a statement where I said, "This memorial casts a hollow reflection of the past atrocities, and reflecting on it gives us the power to live, vouching for a better future." So basically, it's me in front of the Berlin Holocaust Memorial and being very respectful of the entire incident and having a caption which is very, it's condemning the Holocaust and saying that, we've had a bad past. But the fact that there was a pun, this memorial casts a hollow reflection of the past atrocities. So basically, using a pun is apparently making light of the situation and being disrespectful to the Jewish community to the extent of being anti Semitic.
Hmm.
The second instance was of a picture of mine in Malaysia, again back in 2019, way before I even thought of coming to Oxford. And there's a picture of me at a Malaysian temple with my hands folded in a namaste and I'm smiling. And the caption is Ching Chang. And that literally translates to eat that plant on Google Translate. Anybody can look up. And but Ching Chong is a racial slur, which is being increasingly used in America and other, Western parts of the world as a part of, this racist campaign against Asians. So it is real, but it is something I did not know about at that time. I had put it up and forgotten about it. And there was no intention of, being disrespectful to the Chinese community at that point. The third caption was from during the campaign. I had put up a poster celebrating all the women, and the caption was celebrating all the amazing women, trans women, and the men who support us. So the community, the trans community, took offense at the fact that I chose to acknowledge trans women separately because trans women are women. So saying women and trans women is being transphobic. Uh, t-
Wow.
to be honest, a few people did reach out to me about this, but it was in a very aggressive manner. They were like, "Are you going to apologize for this? Uh, How insensitive is this caption? Are you going to take accountability for this?" Were the questions, just two people who sent it to me. And I was like, "Hey, listen, I would like to explain the, scenario behind why I put up that caption because I wanted to defend myself and say that my intentions were not being anti Semitic or being transphobic or being racist." And when I tried to explain myself, they got very worked up and they took to social media to write, public derogatory posts about me. And it's not that I was not ready to apologize if there was any genuine hurt. It was the way it was brought up to me, are you going to apologize for this or are you going to take this? And during that time, I was already being subjected to a lot of anonymous hate and bullying. It
Hmm.
started right after winning the election, and I think it happens to everybody in the public sphere that once you win, people start sending you random hate for nothing from anonymous accounts, with anonymous names and 2 3 followers, really illegitimate, but they know that they're a
What
part of your
kind of
universe.
hate messages and bullying, by the way?
It was all racist and swear words, a bunch of
Please
swear
tell,
words.
tell the people so people should know the kind of racism Indians are subjected to in the Western universities.
That my face looks like a black horse's ass, and that I'm a bunch of cuss words that I really don't use and don't want to use on record. So it was a lot of these really hurtful things, and that was already happening after soon after I win this election. So when these people came up with these posts, I just thought these are a bunch of other, such people. So when you get bullied, you get backed into a corner, and then you really cannot see that, if people are even coming from a genuine place because there's this certain level of aggression that's coming, and you're already being, you're anxious, you've won an election, but that doesn't mean your course has stopped. You are still attending classes, you're still doing your assignments, you still have an entire life to look after. I still have to cook for myself, I still have to clean after myself. It's not like becoming the president is solving all my problems and all I have to do now is just address people and take the hate coming at me. I still have my life to carry on with, and this is an additional thing that's happening to me. And suddenly a bunch of people suddenly thought I had to respond to everything at the same time, and there was a certain level of expectation associated with the kind of response that I have to give as the president. And it spiraled to an extent that I had to deactivate my social media accounts because the amount of hate messages I was getting was too much. And in fact, when I did deactivate Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, the messages started coming to my email, my personal email, which is basically reserved for university business. And I don't know where they got this from. And then they started sending emails from really anonymous sources, and it was terrible. And it was so terrible that I had to fly back home. And I thought, okay, people are infuriated, and then the few people who were trolling me, they started putting out content out there in the public, in a very drag sense, adding a lot of connotations to what happened, not really giving the context that it's a 2017 post, just saying actions of the president elect, kind of insinuating that I did it after being elected, or I did something physical with, a Jewish student or a Chinese student, just basically insinuating
Tell
random
me
things.
one thing. Did the Jewish students and the Chinese students also objected to it? Were they also part of the lynch mob?
I don't want to drag any community into this, so I would not
No,
want
I
to
just want to
comment.
know that did the people against whom you supposedly make the racist remark, were they also saying that we are hurt, or is the people who have nothing to do in the sense directly with those communities, they were
Well,
going after
I
you?
don't know, but they said that they belong to these communities, but I have no way of knowing if they do belong to those communities. So I do not want to unnecessarily target the beautiful and wonderful Jewish community. In fact, they're wonderful people who've been through a lot, and I do not want to target them for anything they might not have done, because haters, they're ready to assume the identity of um, any group to kind of propagate their ideals. So I do not want to brand anybody, and even the Chinese community, the
Yeah, that's the
Mandarins.
point, because we normally don't see this kind of tussle between the Jewish students and the Indian students and Chinese and the Indians. That is why I'm asking it. Who were the people actually doing it? But anyway, so you don't know because those were anonymous messages and mails.
They were anonymous, and even the people who put it out there, I had no way of knowing if they were really, if they really confirmed to these beliefs, or in what degree or capacity they practiced these things. So I wouldn't want to comment on them.
Hmm.
So it's sure it is just people who were bullies and really terrible people, but not communities. The communities have been and continue to be wonderful. So yeah, that. And then the hatred came in, and then I did issue an apology saying, okay, people have been hurt. I apologize to the entire student community. uh, but I haven't started any of my actions, and any of my whatever I've promised on my manifesto. Give me a chance to deliver on those. And I expect nothing but the highest amount of scrutiny when I do that. And if I take a single misstep, there's the scrutiny committee in place and everything. They will scrutinize, and the whole student community can scrutinize and oust me. So please, I'm sorry, give me a chance. And then it was deemed that my apology was not genuine, and that I was just trying to be selfish. That apology was a bit to preserve my presidency. That it was a last straw that I was pulling to sort of save my presidency, and that nothing I said or did could save that presidency. And I was asked very blatantly to step down. And then I thought, even if it's a vocal minority, they're still the people I chose to represent. So, minority or majority, people who I chose to represent, they're upset. They're visibly upset, whatever be the reason. So, I thought it was the mature thing to step
But
down.
that's a very intolerant minority you're talking about. You are giving a veto to an intolerant minority over the democratic process. What about the people who voted for you?
Well, some of them did try to come out in public support, and they were also harassed. They still continue to be harassed. Some of them are being asked to step down from their positions as we speak. And it's been a horrific situation for them. And the people who voted for me are common people. They're hardworking students who just want to get done with their degree, get good jobs, and they're not the kind of students uh, who get on social media on a daily basis to find a new victim.
Hmm.
So even though my support was in the majority, and still is, from the amount of personal messages I'm getting from people, from real people. It is just that getting, good people out there in the social media in cohesion is difficult, because this is not the kind of things people do, the kind of, these are not the kind of stuff that, regular people do. So, I mean, even me, I mean, I barely associate myself. I mean, there's so much unrest in India. I've never posted anything about any one of these issues. Not because I don't care. Of course I care, because it's my country and I care about each issue. But social media, I mean, using social media to air these issues and to insinuate people and to, bring out aggression in people, that is not something I do or confirm to. I believe in having some real solutions to issues, like solve it
Hmm.
with technology or solve it with some logic through discourse. So
So
they
basically,
choose not to
what
engage
we are
on these
seeing,
platforms.
yeah, basically what we saw in there was a subversion of the democratic preference of the majority by an intolerant vocal minority. This is what it is.
Maybe, yeah, seems looks like it
But
to me.
we have also seen that lots of posts, even by the faculty, were made against you, which were quite Hinduphobic in nature, which was quite racist in nature. They were dragging in your family. They were saying things no one would ever say about any other community in the world. Like, imagine someone saying that this Chinese student is not worthy of leading the Oxford because he comes from China where Uyghurs are being persecuted. But in your case, that was made that you come from a place and the Islamophobia in that place and so on, so you are not fit to become the public representative. Your family was dragged in for their religious beliefs. uh, 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 you were branded intolerant because of the religion you follow. Do you think there was a strong strain of Hinduphobia and some kind of anti-India racism at work there?
So the comparison that you just made to the Chinese student, you would get cancelled for this in Oxford, and you would be dragged through the mud for just saying that, you would be called racist, because making that comparison is not allowed, and there's absolutely no freedom of speech when it comes to making such comparisons.
Hmm.
Even if you're trying to sort of match sentiments and not try to insinuate that any community is being disrespectful or is not worthy.
If any
So
community
I feel
except the Hindus, right?
any, yeah, yeah, you make fun out of Hindus to explain any situation, it's acceptable, it still is. I mean, this post, firstly, the faculty had no business making that post about me, because he's in no way, he can in no way vote, or he can in no way have an opinion about who the students pick to be their leader or their president. He had no business making that post or even interfering there. And as a man twice my age and with an academic career which is literally equivalent to my age, it is very appalling that somebody of his stature would even stoop to the level of making such a post. I believe that such people should not be allowed to teach anywhere, because teaching is a position of power. It's a position of power that you have over your students, and if you are capable of propagating so much hate, then you cannot, I mean, you should not be allowed to be a faculty. And it also
Then,
reflects the
but then coming to, was there no censor on him by the Oxford Teachers Union or somebody in the Oxford? Is there no grievance redressal mechanism?
nope. And so far, there's one way I can voice my opinion, which I have, but there's been no action taken, and it's not being treated very seriously as of yet. I mean, it's just being passed around a bunch of departments so far. I don't know what they'll do in the future, and I do not want to say that they will not do anything, because I want to believe that they would do something about this. But so
So you
far,
filed an official complaint with the university.
yeah, I have.
Okay.
And what I find appalling is that these students, they know what happened, and they know what this faculty has made, what poster this faculty has made. The same students who are crying intolerance over past social media pictures and still demanding an apology and dragging my name through the mud for it, do not find this post appalling in any way or manner, or do not feel that, that I'm being victimized by this man, and that, that some justice has to be met out, or that they need to raise their voice against this man or the incident that happened with me. Nope. So it shows the hypocrisy and the selective cancelism. I mean, if cancel culture was applied to everybody, I would still be okay with it. But this selective cancellation of, a particular of people, just adhering or confirming to specific sets of values. It's just appalling that the society is set to use whatever to just, cancel
So is it just because there is this Hinduphobia,
people.
and is it just that Hinduphobia is widely acceptable in the Western university campuses and no one finds it offensive?
I don't know because I've just been around for 5 months and this is
Hmm.
my first experience with it. So I
Hmm.
do not want to generalize Hinduphobia and, just tag it on every person. And, I don't want to do that. But this incident does show something, if not anything. And I think it's out there. The verdict is, it's something for the people to make, and it's out there, and it's not something that I want to write or that's something I want to direct. It's out there, and it's for people to discern, not me.
Mhm. But can I ask you something? So you ran on a platform that you should remove the statues of certain leaders from the past for what they believed 2 centuries back or a century back. Is it, are you also not condoning the kind of wokeism which comes at everyone once upon a time? So you are being victimized for the post you made 4 years back, and you were also saying that you want to remove these statues for what those people did 200 years back, or maybe what were their belief system, what was their worldview in those times. I mean, you are judging them by the standards of today, just like those people are judging you by the standards of being a president of the Oxford Union rather than a 17-year-old teenager. So how do you reconcile your
Very good
positions with it?
question. Yeah, I did not kill people. My view section has not led to the massacre of millions of people, but their belief system has led to massacre of billions of people, and their statues condemn the sufferings of the millions of people who have died. So it was their direct actions there which have caused the massacre. For instance, Christopher Codrington, he was a slave owner. He's probably been responsible for pathetic lives of so many people. It was not his value system, it was his action, something he's done, like, physically. I have not done anything physically. I did not cause the Holocaust. I did not uh, go at Chinese people. In fact, I have the utmost amount of respect for them, their culture, their language, their food, their belief system, everything, everything. I did not go after them. I've never judged them just by any racist standards. So I think you need to draw a line there between what you choose to condemn and what you don't, because some things have to be condemned
Hmm.
in society. You cannot just not condemn murder or such kind of gross violent things, because that goes against the foundation of our society.
Hmm.
So I think there needs to be a little bit of context when it comes to
Hmm.
cancellation, because
But
being
in the
woke.
cancel culture, the context is always lost, like in your case.
Mhm. Yeah. So people would find it okay, if we are going to cancel him, then we should cancel her too. But the scenario is very different. Those people, it's blood spilled all across continents over centuries, and and what I have done is not that. I haven't spilled blood or, caused any communal violence or anything for that matter. And so please do not. I mean, there
But
needs
it
to be
was
lot.
it was I mean, your family, your community was dragged into that you are responsible for violence because of your belief system. How is that different?
How is that different? How is that different? Because I feel like holding a person maybe accountable for their actions is okay, but dragging their family. I mean, I'm not dragging Cecil Rhodes' family or
Hmm.
Christopher Codrington's family into this issue. I'm not saying that they're they must have generations, and they must have a lot of their great grandchildren out here in public, and they do hold some very important positions in our society.
Yeah.
I think Rhodes was a bachelor, but I'm not so sure about Codrington. So I'm not saying we need to go and censor them for what their forefathers did. So
Hmm.
that being the case, I think nobody should come and censor my parents for anything,
Hmm.
and or make
Also,
that
so
connection.
where does that leave the academic freedom, the freedom of thought, the freedom of expression? in the Oxford or in the other university campuses, because freedom of expression also includes the holding those opinions which might be offensive to other people. And
Yeah.
here you are saying that anything you can say cannot be even remotely offensive to anyone. Even one person or a vocal minority stands up and say, I find your statement offensive, even though there is no, as you are
Hmm.
saying, nothing, no malice out there. Where does that leave the academic freedom, freedom of opinion, freedom of expression, individual liberty in these campuses? This is basically thought policing. How is it different from Stalinism?
Freedom of speech is different from, causing real actions as a consequence of those. I was made to resign and I had to come back home. So, freedom of speech and discourse must happen in a healthy manner where both sides are given a very fair chance of expressing their opinions, and conclusions must be sought based on solid proof and not based on smear campaigns online. I
Hmm.
think that's where our academic freedom is. If Professor Abhijit Sarkar had chosen to write an academic paper about me or my belief system or my upbringing based on this incident and make some academic conclusions based on that, and used proper evidence and references and cross references to do it, then that would be academic freedom. But writing a social media rant about me without any references and making wild connotations, that is not academic freedom. That is harassment, stalking, and bullying. So there's a clear line between the two. So you need to make sure that what actions you make have no lasting effects on people's lives, because by the end of the day, we are all humans out here. And what matters the most is that we look after each other's well being. And all we do owe is each other some kindness. It comes back to the basic things, that really matter in life. So we need to make sure that we are not taking away those basic rights in an effort to, and academic freedom is correct. I mean, everybody should have academic freedom, but nobody should have, I mean, the audacity to, they should know. I mean, nobody should censor, but everybody should. The whole point of having no censor is that people deem that humans have enough intellect to decide whether this is, harmful or not. So what he said, it should be condemned because it's basically insinuating some
Hmm.
kind of violence.
It's basically defamation you're talking
It's
about.
basically defamation, and there's a line between academic freedom and defamation.
Hmm. Okay, fair point, Rashmi. So, what is the road ahead now? When are you planning to go back? Because many people think that by resigning, you have surrendered to the bullies. And are you are you willing to go back and fight up for your rights again? What is the future? What is the road ahead now?
Well, in this well connected world, I don't think I have to be physically present anywhere to fight anything. And the fact that I'm talking to you is a testament to the fact that I am fighting this. And I don't want to do it in the same aggressive manner that
Hmm.
they did by, starting a smear campaign and enlisting people to, offend, defend, and everything. Though that is happening, by media houses and everything, which is out of control at this point. But I would want to hold on to my value system and in a little way try to, further my thoughts and maybe support others who might have gone through similar experiences but did not have the platform to voice it.
Hmm.
And try to help and stop this kind of a situation where a student got bullied by a faculty happen in the future again. So maybe take some steps towards that. And yeah, nothing too revolutionary or
Revolutions happen every day in the university campuses, and they lead to nowhere. They're the road to nowhere. But anyway, so Rashmi, thanks for talking to us, and thanks for being bold and standing up for your rights and your value system. I wish you all the very best in your fight for upholding the individual rights and liberty at the Oxford, and also to fight back against the racism and Hinduphobia against the students coming from India. And thank you, audience, for listening to us. And please don't forget to subscribe and join the channel. Thank you.
thank you.